Before you design a single slide in your capabilities deck, there's one thing you need to do first, and that's clarifying what you do. So, if a client gives you money, what will they get in return? And this is something that seems straightforward and seems obvious, but I see tons of agency owners miss the mark when it comes to clearly stating what it is that you do. So, for our clients and the agency owners that we work with, that's the first thing we start with. And that basically translates to writing all of the copy slide by slide for their entire capabilities deck before we do a single ounce of design. So when you clarify what you do, when you clarify your positioning, when you lock in your positioning, there are tons of benefits that come from that. So every word, every call out, every blurb is written in a Google document before we even start designing, pulling content, anything that gets into the actual creative visual layout for each slide. So, as an example of how important this is, I want to talk about one of our clients, Chloe. So, Chloe came to us to get her capabilities deck done. And essentially, we started with our process of writing it out slide by slide in a Google document. And she was actually having to pitch a prospect before the deck was done. And she was able to close that prospect just based on the outline and the copy that we wrote for her. So just taking a step back, it's super important to understand that just having that clarity, being able to wrap your mind around how to talk about your services, how to talk about your offer, how to really show your agency value, that's like a huge part of the battle when it comes to pitching your agency and winning new business. So that's why we always start with positioning first. There's a link down below to a guide where I take you slide by slide through how to write every single page in your deck. So definitely go grab that, and that'll help you as far as like how to think about how to structure your deck and what to put on each page. But I really encourage you to write everything down first, slide by slide, have that outline done, make sure it makes sense. We have tons of tools now, AI, ChatGPT that you can use to refine and make sure that the messaging is super, super clear. But the goal in this first step is just to write slide by slide what you want to include in the deck, and then really run it through those checks to make sure that it's simple language, it's clear, and that the prospect on the other side of the pitch is going to clearly understand what they will get from you if they give you money. And one other thing I want to mention is that once you have that clarity, that copy is dialed in, your positioning is clear, that actually really helps you improve the design of your deck, because now you can look at all the assets, all the case studies, all the work that you've done, and really look at it and say, does this support the copy and the positioning that I've come up with? If it doesn't, you don't need to include it. And if it does, you know what to add. I have clients that are niching into particular industries or focusing on certain types of clients, but they might have work that falls outside of that. And so, we suggest not to include that. You don't want to muddle the story. You don't want to muddle the picture. You want to make sure every visual that you put in your deck reinforces the copy and the positioning that you worked so hard on. And I think a lot of agency owners just want to show everything that they do, but it's really about being selective and picking whatever work you have, whatever case studies you have, whatever results you have that support that messaging and that copy and that positioning. So for example, if you're going to focus on food and beverage as your industry, you want to use the work examples and the case studies and everything from food and beverage. Even for your logo quote, you want to focus in on the logos for the brands that are in the food and beverage space. So it's all aligned, it's all congruent, and it all makes sense together. And so once you lock that copy and positioning, then you want to go through all your creative assets, all your case studies, see what you have, and really do another gut check against all those. Does this support, does this add validity to the positioning and the copy that I've come up with? And then you can easily start to slot in, those visuals that are just going to take the credibility of your deck up another level. It's going to build trust, and it's going to make sure that the prospects that you're pitching are really seeing how one dot connects to the other, from what you're saying and what you're showing, the results you can get and what you can offer them. So, the moral of the story is positioning before design. Write your deck before you design it. It will speed up the overall process. And essentially, you'll have a tool just in the written copy that you can really use to practice against and start using to go out to pitch clients, like our client, Chloe. Like, she was pitching before she ever showed a polished visual, and she was able to close clients. So positioning before design, obviously design is important. That's the next level up, and that's how you really stand out from the pack. But what comes next after that? Well, check out this video where I'll show you what I found after looking at 500 plus winning agency capabilities decks. And I'll talk about the exact slides those agencies are using to turn that clarity into closed deals.